Hello Warhammer Explorers. Before we dive in, hit subscribe so the next transmission isn't lost to the warp. Every click tells me to keep building this universe with you. What if Anakin Skywalker entered Warhammer 40K? Anakin Skywalker kneels on burning black rock and feels his life break. Padme is far away and dying, and every choice he made has led to this fire. If there is any power that can let me stop this, he whispers, show me now. The Force twists, a hidden door opens, and he sees another galaxy where war never ends and death laughs at every promise. He reaches into the wound in the Force, steps through, and the wound tears wide as reality screams. The sky over Hive Carthaga splits open like a ripped wound of light. Millions of workers look up from their foundries and slums. The air is already brown with smoke from factories and war. Now it glows sickly purple and white, as if a storm made of ghosts is pushing through. On the highest spire of the Hive city, vox masts crackle and melt. Servo skulls, small flying machines with human skulls at their core, jitter and fall from the air. Warning runes flash red across command screens. An unknown object is falling from the new storm, a single shape, burning. Inside the storm, Anakin tumbles. Heat licks at his skin again. For a moment, he thinks he is still on Mustafar, still on the lava shore. Then he sees iron towers that stretch like spears into the clouds, and endless walls stamped with a double-headed eagle. He cannot feel Coruscant. He cannot feel Padme. Panic rises, but training cuts through. Breathe. Feel. The Force is here, but it is wrong, thick and crowded with whispers. It is like sinking into deep water full of unseen things. The ground looms up. Anakin throws out his hands and drags on the Force. His fall slows, but not enough. He crashes into the side of a Gothic tower, stone carvings shattering around him, and then slams onto a landing platform with enough force to crack the metal. Pain flares through his ribs. The world blurs. He hears people scream and metal groan. He smells oil, promethium fuel, blood, and incense all mixed together. He pushes himself up. Men and women in flak armor stare at him with wide eyes and raised rifles. Their uniforms are dark green under dusty coats. Each carries a long rifle with a glowing power pack. Each has the same symbol on their shoulders as the one on the towers, the double-headed eagle. One of them speaks first, voice hoarse through a tinny speaker in her helmet. Psyker just fell from the sky, she says. Emperor's mercy. What the hell is that thing? Anakin's lightsaber hilt is in his hand before he knows it. He does not ignite it yet. He stands, shoulders squared, breathing hard, chest aching. His Jedi robes are torn and burned, and ash flakes from his hair. I am Anakin Skywalker, he says. I don't know where I am, but I am not your enemy. The soldiers look at each other. One of them, a woman with a red rank sash and a scar across her jaw, steps forward. Her helmet is off, hanging at her side. Her dark eyes are tired, sharp, and not easily impressed. I am General Cassia Holt of the 121st Valtorian Imperial Guard, she says. We are defending Hive Carthaga on Gavriel IX. If you are not our enemy, then drop the witch tricks and stand down. Imperial Guard, Anakin repeats. He has never heard the name, but he hears the word defending, and that is enough. The storm above them rips wider. Something else is coming through. He feels it before he sees it. A wave of hate that makes the cold leftover from Mustafar feel small. Voices hiss in the Force, layered and echoing, like a crowd whispering in a dead language. Sirens howl across the Hive. Giant speakers on the towers blast orders. All citizens to shelters, all guard units to battle stations. heresy sighted in the upper atmosphere. Anakin turns and sees the enemy. Dark shapes fall from the other side of the tear in the sky. At first, they look like meteors. Then fire clears, and he sees they are drop craft. Clawed metal pods wrapped in chains and covered in red spiked symbols. Each symbol feels like a wound in the air. The pods slam into towers, streets, and plazas. They burst open, and warriors step out. Each warrior is a giant in blood-red armor, twice the size of a man, covered in spikes and crawling script. Their eyes glow behind horned helmets. The force around them writhes. Something rides inside their souls that is not just hate but worship of hate. They raise heavy guns and axes that drip with black fire. They roar one word in unison. Lorgar. General Holt's jaw tightens. Word bearers, she spits. Traitor space marines. Chaos filth. Open fire. The guard around her brace and let loose with a storm of red lasergun beams. The air fills with the crack and stink of energy discharge. But many beams splash like rain on a wall of evil light. One of the red giants laughs, lifts his hand, and a ghostly shield of symbols flares around him. Anakin feels the slaughter coming. He feels every man and woman on this platform, their fear like trembling strings in the Force. He feels the millions beneath them, packed in slums, already screaming. His chest tightens as if a metal band is closing around his heart. He sees Padme's face in his mind. No more, he whispers. No more. His blue blade snaps to life with a hiss. The nearest soldiers flinch. Light from the blade paints their armor and faces. The sound is alien here, and yet it fills Anakin with something like home. A drop pod crushes into the tower edge just below them. The metal floor lurches. Stone gargoyles take flight, ripped free. The pod's doors blow open, and 3 red-armored giants stomp out, bolters ready. Anakin moves. He sprints to the edge, leaps, and rides the Force down toward the enemy. Wind roars past his ears. For a moment, he is again the hero with no fear, leading a charge into a separatist bunker. But this is not the Clone Wars, and the power in the air is not the clean, sharp light of the Force. He lands on a giant's shoulder. The impact jars his teeth. The giant turns, roaring, raising a fist the size of Anakin's chest. Anakin's blade cuts first. Blue light slices through red ceramite armor at the joint, and the arm falls, spraying warped, blackened blood. The air around the giant screams. Something invisible and hungry reaches for Anakin, riding the dying warrior's soul. He shoves back with the Force, gritting his teeth, and the pressure breaks with a burst of icy pain in his skull. Another giant fires a bolter at him. The shells are small metal bombs. Each is the size of a man's thumb, fat and deadly. They streak toward him, leaving smoke trails. Anakin whirls his saber. He has deflected blaster bolts his entire life. These are heavier, slower, but far more brutal. He deflects 2, 3, 4, but one clips his side, explodes against the platform, and sends him tumbling. He slams into the metal edge and nearly falls off the tower. He catches a railing with one hand and hangs over a drop that goes down for kilometers into thick smog. Below, the hive stretches in layers of lights and smoke, streets like veins, manufactorums belching fire. Gunfire and explosions already flicker across the city as the word bearers spread. An armored hand grabs his wrist and hauls him up. General Holt's grip is iron. She pulls Anakin back onto solid ground with a grunt. "Whatever you are," she shouts over the noise, "keep doing that." He nods, breath sharp. His side burns. His head rings from the psychic pressure of the dying giant. But he stands. Together, they fight. The guard pour more las fire into the exposed red giants. Anakin darts in and out among them with impossible speed and grace. He cuts legs from under a giant, stabs through the eye lenses of another, and uses the Force to shove a third off the tower entirely. The huge warrior falls, smashing through balconies and chimneys on the way down. Each kill hurts, not in his body, but in his mind. Every time one of these twisted warriors dies, something tries to reach through their soul into his. It is like a dirty hand clawing at the inside of his skull, offering power, promising understanding, whispering old and new names. He shoves it away with force of will. He remembers Obi-Wan's calm. He remembers Yoda's warnings about the dark. He remembers Padme's faith in him. The last of this squad goes down under guard fire and Anakin's blade. The platform is a mess of blood, smoking armor and shattered stone. The storm above still howls. More pods fall in the distance. General Holt, a crackling voice says from her wristwatch. This is command. Reports of traitor Astartes in multiple spires. Void shields are flickering. We may lose the upper habs. Holt wipes blood from her face and looks at Anakin. You fall from a warp tear right as a chaos assault hits our hive, she says. You swing a witch sword of light and play with bullets like they're toys. You are a psyker of some sort. If you are a demon, I will have you shot. If you are a weapon, I will aim you. I fight to protect people, Anakin says, breathing hard. His side aches where the bolter blast grazed him. He can feel bruising and blood under his robes. But I am not your weapon. On Gavriel IX, Holt says, every man and woman is the Emperor's weapon. Another voice speaks then, calm and cold, from behind them. And some weapons are too dangerous to be left unchained. Anakin turns. A tall man in a long black coat stands at the entrance to the platform. Silver seals of wax and parchment hang from his shoulders. A golden eye, with a skull in its center, glows on a rosette at his chest. His eyes are grey, hard, and burned out tired, like someone who has seen too much and judged even more. He's flanked by 4 soldiers in heavier armor, their faces hidden behind blank helms. Each holds a strange gun that hums with caged power. Anakin feels those guns like cold spots in the air. The Force shrinks away from them. Inquisitor Varro Cold, Holt says, snapping to attention. Ordo Hereticus. Inquisition, Anakin repeats softly. The word tastes like the Jedi Council and the Senate and all the people who watched and judged and never acted fast enough. Inquisitor Kald looks Anakin up and down. You appear human, Kald says, yet you fell from a warp rift. You wield Xenos or prescribed technology. His gaze rests on the lightsaber. You feel like a psyker, but twisted. Explain yourself, or I will order my acolytes to burn you where you stand. Anakin's grip tightens on his saber hilt. He is tired of being judged. He is tired of councils and orders and people who stand aside while worlds burn. Heat rises in his chest, a familiar angry fire. He breathes it out. My name is Anakin Skywalker, he says. I was a Jedi Knight. My world is not this one. I came through that tear. He points to the storm overhead. I came to stop people I love from dying, he says. But now I am here. If you want to kill me, you can try. Or you can let me help you save this city. Kald studies him for a long, tight moment. Below them, the hive burns louder. Distant explosions boom up through the smog. Shrieks and chants mix like a sick song. More red-armored giants leap from tower to tower, leading gangs of screaming cultists in rags and chains. You feel of the warp, Kald says at last. Yet you do not reek of the dark gods. You saved an Imperial Guard platoon instead of eating their souls. This is unusual. It is a war, Holt snaps. We do not have time to debate your catechisms, Inquisitor. I need every fighter I can get. You need bullets and faith, Kald says, not unbound witches. Anakin lifts his saber. Blue light washes across Kald's scars and Holt's worn face. I am not bound to your Emperor, he says, but I will fight beside you, and I will not stand by while civilians die. For a moment, the only sounds are alarms, distant gunfire, and the storm. Kald's jaw works. Finally, he gives a small, sharp nod. Very well, he says. By inquisitorial authority, I declare Anakin Skywalker a provisional asset. He will fight under my observation. If he shows signs of corruption, I will end him. Holt exhales. Welcome to the Guard, she says dryly. Try not to die on your first day. Codex note. Unregistered Psyker class asset displays combat effectiveness on par with an Astartes kill squad in close quarters. They move. Holt barks orders into her Vox. Pull back second platoon to secure this spire. Divert heavy weapons to the western approach. We have a new asset. Route target data to my helm. She pulls her helmet back on. Her voice shifts, filtered now through a grill. Skywalker, with me, she says. Inquisitor, you're welcome to follow, but we don't stop. Kald's mouth twitches once as if he almost smiles. Then he controls it. We will need to reach command, he says. This is not a simple raid. The word bearers do not commit in small numbers. They push into the hive. Inside the tower, corridors are crowded with fleeing workers, crying children, and machine servitors clanking on metal legs. Red emergency lights flash. Lord hailers on the walls blare half-heard prayers and orders. Trust in the Emperor. Report any heresy to your local commissar. Do not speak to voices in your head. Anakin feels those voices. They press at the edge of his mind now, more constant than before. They whisper in a tongue he does not know, but the meaning slides under his thoughts. You are strong. You are angry. You were betrayed by your own order. He clenches his jaw. He has heard such whispers before, in Chancellor Palpatine's smooth voice. He knows where they lead. He shoves them out like he pushes out fear in a cockpit. As they push through the corridors, Holt soldiers fan out. They form a wedge around Anakin and Kald. Their laser guns track every shadow. They pass a shrine where a statue of a stern, armored man with a sword stands over kneeling citizens. Candles are knocked over, wax smeared, blood on the steps. Your Emperor? Anakin asks, nodding toward the statue as they rush by. The Emperor of mankind, Holt says. Lord of the Imperium, Savior of humanity. He sits on the golden throne on Terra and guides us still. Anakin blinks. In my galaxy, he says, the Emperor is just a title for a ruler. Here he is. He searches for a word that fits what he feels in the air when she says the name. He is a god to you. He is a god to everyone who wants to live, Holt says. Kald's voice cuts in like a blade. He is more than a god, the Inquisitor says. He's the only light in a galaxy, full of monsters. Mind your tongue, off-world psyker. Blasphemy is not tolerated. Anakin almost laughs. He has heard that tone from Jedi Masters and Senators. But here the stakes are different. He can feel it. The fear in the air is not fear of politics. They reach a lift big enough for tanks. Holt waves a card, and the doors grind open. Inside is a command hub layered with cogitator banks, vast machines with spinning data wheels and glowing runes. Officers in crisp uniforms and tech priests with metal limbs shout over the noise. Holt strides to a central table. A three-dimensional map of Hive Carthaga floats above it in red light. Small icons show guard units, artillery positions and defense batteries. New clusters of red rune tags appear, marking word-bearer squads and cultist mobs. A tide of enemy symbols pushes in from 3 sides. A thin man with augmetic eyes snaps to attention. "General," he says, "we have contacts all along the upper hive. Void shields are down to 60%. Enemy cruisers move into low orbit. We have confirmed word-bearer iconography and at least 1 battle barge-class vessel." "Even odds?" Holt asks. He swallows. 2 to 1 against at best, he says. "Our Titan Legion is off-world. The local Astartes garrison is only a strike force." "Astartes?" Anakin asks. "Space Marines," Holt says. "Genetically crafted super soldiers of the Emperor. 8 feet tall, power armor, holy zeal. Our angels of death." "Some angels fall," Colt says quietly. Refresher. The word bearers were once Astartes too. The room goes still as everyone notices Anakin's presence. They see the burned robes, the alien glow of his lightsaber still in his hand, the way the air seems to bend around him. Some make the sign of the Aquila, palms crossed. Some reach for sidearms. Cold holds up his rosette. "This is my asset," Colt says. "By inquisitorial writ, he will aid in this defense while I judge his nature. You will treat him as you would a sanctioned psyker, carefully and with one eye on the nearest gun." Anakin steps closer to the holomap. He lets the force stretch. Every red rune is a cluster of lives twisted by hate. Every green icon is a unit of tired, hopeful humans clinging to their orders. He feels the city as a living thing, crying out. He sees the enemy plan in a flash. "They are pushing hard here and here," he says, pointing to 2 converging attack routes. "But this corridor here, in the lower mid-hive, it is the real goal. They want to cut the city in half and reach the core." "The manufactorum core," the augmetic-eyed officer breathes. "The plasma reactors." "If they corrupt or overload them," Colt says, "they could cripple this hive or turn it into a warp breach. We would lose millions now and billions later when the tide spreads." Holt curses under her breath. "Can you hold that corridor?" she asks. "Even for an hour?" Anakin looks at the map. "I can try," he says, "but I need to move fast. I will need your people to open paths and give me support. I cannot be everywhere." "None of us can," Holt says. "That is the reality of war, Skywalker. We bleed where we stand and hope it is enough." Colt watches Anakin carefully. "What is the cost of your power?" the Inquisitor asks quietly. "Nothing is free in the warp. Our psykers pay with their minds and souls. What do you pay when you cut through giants and bullets like that?" Anakin thinks of Mustafar. He thinks of the way he felt as he marched into the Jedi Temple, heart full of fear and pride. He thinks of the Force now, thick and dirty, but also stronger in his hands than ever before. The whispers curl at the edge of his mind, promising more. "I pay," he says slowly, "by standing close to a cliff I have fallen from before." Cal's eyes narrow. "That is not comforting," he says, "but it is honest. Do not step over that edge again while you are on my world, Anakin Skywalker." Up to now, Anakin has crashed into a hive city under attack, saved a guard unit from demon-worshipping giants, met a hardline Inquisitor and a worn but brave general, and seen that this war is bigger and darker than anything in his own galaxy. An alarm shrieks at a higher pitch. The augmetic-eyed officer slams a rune. A new image fills the air. A live feed from the upper atmosphere. Everyone in the room stares. A vast, cathedral-like warship looms in the void above Gavriel IX. It is made of black iron and burning script. Spiked towers jut from its spine. Banners of flayed skin flutter in airless space, held up by sorcery. Its prow is shaped like a fanged mouth swallowing stars. Word-bearer's battle barge confirmed, the officer says, voice faint. Designation, Ark of Endless Sermons. They are powering their main guns. Additional assault pods launching. Smaller shapes detach from the warship. Drop pods and attack craft, dozens, then hundreds. They streak toward Hive Carthaga like a red rain. At the same time, new warp flares appear lower down, in the slums and underhive. Portals boiling up from sewers and cathedrals both. The first wave was only the sermon, Kalt says grimly. This is the crusade. Holt squares her shoulders. Orders? She asks. Kalt looks at Anakin. We cannot hold the whole hive, the Inquisitor says. If they reach the core and make a true breach, this world is lost. I would be bound by my office to order exterminatus, total destruction of the planet to stop the spread. Anakin's stomach turns. Destroy the whole world, he says, with all these people? If that is the only way to protect the Imperium, Kalt says. Yes. No, Anakin snaps. There has to be another way. I did not come here to watch another world burn while I stand and talk. Good, Kalt says. Then go and prove there is another way. He steps closer, his voice low and hard. The warp tear that brought you here is not just above us, he says. My astropaths feel it like a scream. It is linked to your soul in some way. If the word-bearers reach the core and twist that link, they could make you their banner or their bomb. Anakin feels cold inside. So the way I came here, he says slowly, can be used against this world. Yes, Kalt says. It is a weakness the enemy will seek. It is also a blade we might be able to turn back on them, but only if you live, and only if you keep your will your own. General Holt slams her fist on the table. Enough, she says. We have a main push in the mid-hive, cult uprisings in the lower levels, and a battle barge aiming at our shields. Skywalker, take a company and hold that corridor to the core. Inquisitor, get me contact with the Astartes. I want an angel of death sitting on that battle barge's throat. Astartes are already en route, the officer says, pointing to new icons. Thunderhawk gunships launching from the fortress monastery. Chapter: Knights of the Dawn. On the holomap, 3 bright blue symbols streak out from a mountain fortress on the far side of the world. Space Marines, Holt says. Our side's version of those red bastards up there. You'll know them when you see them. Anakin nods. He's tired, hurt, and full of questions. But he knows how to fight. He knows how to lead. Show me the way to this corridor, he says. I will hold it. Kalt presses something into his hand, a small metal charm shaped like the inquisitorial eye. This will let our forces know you are under my eye, Kalt says. Some may still try to shoot you. They will be wrong. Try not to kill them if you can help it. Anakin closes his fingers around the cold metal. He feels the weight of it and the chain of it. He remembers the Jedi symbol on his own tunic back home. He wonders how many chains a man can wear and still call himself free. He takes one last look at the city map. So many lives, so many chances to do better than last time. The force around him is a storm, thick with pain and hunger. He draws on it anyway and steps toward the war. The company assigned to Anakin gathers on a lower transit deck. Dozens of guardsmen stand in rough lines. They smell of sweat, oil, and fear that they try to hide. Their armor is chipped. Many of their helmets bear small chalk marks for lost friends. General Holt walks in front of them. This is Skywalker, she says through her helmet vox. He's a psyker from somewhere else. He cut down traitor Astartes on my tower. He's under inquisitorial watch. You will follow his orders in the field as if they were mine. A murmur runs through the ranks. Some eyes hold awe, Some hold hate. Some just look too tired to care who leads them. They only care that someone has a plan. Anakin steps forward. I am not here to rule you, he says. I am here to keep you alive. We hold that corridor, or this city dies. Stay close. Shoot straight. If I do something strange, do not panic. If I fall, do not stop. A big guardsman with a heavy stubber slung across his chest raises a hand. Sir, he says, can you do that sword thing again? There is a ripple of nervous laughter. Anakin cannot help a small smile. He ignites his saber. Blue light fills the deck, reflecting in eyes and on dull metal. For a moment, the fear in the room shifts. It becomes something warmer, sharper. Hope mixed with shock. Stay behind the light, he says. We move. They pile into armored troop carriers, Chimera tanks with sloped armor and turret guns. The engines growl. The carriers roll out into the Hive's transit arteries. Through the vision slits, Anakin sees the inside of a city built like a fortress and a tomb. Endless stacked hab blocks rise on either side. Each is a tower of metal and stone, covered in pipes and balconies. Shanty shacks cling to the side of bigger buildings like parasites. Lines of workers march down walkways with empty, stunned faces, herded by loudhailers and shock sticks. They pass shrines in niches in the walls. Small statues of the Emperor stand above candles and handmade charms. People kneel even now, even with alarms howling and the sky sick. They press bloodied hands to their foreheads and whisper prayers. Anakin feels the weight of all of it. This whole planet is a machine built to feed war. These people are the fuel. He has seen war factories before, but never one built as an entire world. The Vox inside the Chimera crackles. Enemy contact on Deck 39, comes a voice. Cultist mobs, civilian formations breaking. We need support. Holt's voice cuts in over the top. Negative, she says. Skywalker's company is bound for Corridor Kappa 7 to the core. Local units hold as best you can. Anakin grips the handrail as the Chimera rattles over a ruined section of road. He hears the distant screams and the gunfire. He knows they are driving past people who will die. His fists clench. He speaks into the squad vox. General, he says, we could divert a platoon to help them. We divert now. The enemy takes Kappa 7, Holt replies. If they take Kappa 7, they reach the reactor core. If they reach the core, we lose everything. This is the math of war, Skywalker. I know the math, Anakin says. He thinks of all the times he went off mission to save someone. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes it made things worse. He grinds his teeth. Then we move faster, he says. They reach Kappa 7. It is not a simple corridor. It is a whole band of the Hive. Transport tunnels, freight lifts, and wide streets that circle the great manufactorum core. Huge doors stand at intervals, meant to slam shut in emergencies. Most are open now, stuck or jammed. Civilians run in all directions. Some carry children. Some drag carts piled with their lives. Some are just frozen where they stand, staring at the sky through broken windows. The first cultists fall on them like beasts. They rush from stairwells and broken doors, faces painted with blood and scripture. They wear chains, ragged robes, bits of stolen guard gear. Many have crude blades. Some carry stolen laser guns. Anakin is out of the Chimera before it fully stops. He raises his free hand. The force surges. He grabs a scattering of loose gear, scrap metal, and half-broken bar barricades. He yanks them into the air and slams them down across the mouths of side corridors. Instant walls rise. Surprised cultists crash into them. Some are crushed. Others are shaken and slowed. The flow of bodies breaks. "Get the civilians through the main artery," Anakin shouts. "Use the carriers as cover. Form a line there, and there." His orders are simple and direct. Guardsmen obey. Chimeras turn sideways to make armored lanes. Civilians are pushed behind them. Heavy stubbers on the Chimera turrets roar, mowing down cultists trying to climb over. Anakin dives into the gap. His saber arcs blue. He cuts a stolen laser gun in half. He kicks its owner back into his own comrades. He ducks under a wild swing, batters the man's wrist, sends the knife flying. "Run," he snaps at the stunned man. "Drop the blade and run." For a second, the cultist's eyes clear. He looks like any other worker, pale and thin. Then voices hiss in the air around him, and his mouth twists. He screams something to a god Anakin does not know and lunges again. This time Anakin does not spare him. He twists, blade flashing, and the man falls. Blood sprays the floor. More cultists climb over him. The corridor battle becomes a grind. Wave after wave of cultists smash against Guard Lasfire and Anakin's moving blade. They climb over their own dead, lost to any fear of dying. In the distance, the deeper roar of heavy guns says that word-bearer squads are not far behind. Anakin looks up. The overhead struts and arches are heavy, old, and buckling. He sees a way. "Sergeant," he calls to the nearest guard NCO. "Pull your men back 10 meters, now." The sergeant does not argue. He blows a whistle and waves his squad back. They fall into a new firing line. Anakin reaches up with both hands. He grabs the structure through the force, not gently. There is no time for careful work here. He rips, metal screams, stone cracks. A whole section of ceiling comes down in a roaring avalanche of rubble, dust, and sparks. Cultists vanish under the collapse. So do some fleeing civilians who did not move fast enough. Anakin feels their bright lives snuff out like candles. The force punches him in the chest with the weight of it. He staggers. Guardsmen look at him, eyes wide, then look at the new barrier. The crash has blocked most of the side tunnels. It has also cut off a mob of cultists from their reinforcements. They are trapped between the rubble and the guard line. "Open fire," Anakin says, voice low. Red beams light up the corridor. The trapped cultists fall, one by one, under the steady fire. Some try to surrender, dropping their weapons and crying out. Some just hurl themselves at the lasbolts with open arms. Anakin watches it all. He does not look away from the ones who threw down their knives. He feels their panic, their broken minds. He knows some might have been saved. He knows the line could not risk letting them reach it. He hears clone troopers in his memory. "We can't save everyone, sir." His jaw tightens. "Hold this position," he tells the sergeant. "Cover the evacuation lanes. If you see word bearers, call me." He moves again. This whole area must be shaped, not just held. If he waits, the enemy will decide where to hit hardest. He needs to decide first. He sprints along a maintenance gantry overlooking other tunnels. Below, he sees a rail track for cargo trams. A loaded train sits abandoned, packed with promethium drums and ammo crates. Farther down that track, he sees a swarm of cultists pouring into an open gate. A bad idea forms, a useful idea. He drops to the tram controls in a blur of movement. The console is a mess of levers and rune keys. He does not know this tech, but the logic is there. He lays his palm on it and feels. Wires, power lines, switch relays. All of it hums in the force, another kind of nervous system. He pushes, sparks jump. Somewhere in the shadows, a machine spirit whines in shock. The tram's engines cough, then roar. The whole train lurches forward. It rolls down the track, slow at first, then faster. Drums rattle. Ammo crates shake. The swarm of cultists in the tunnel ahead does not notice until too late. Anakin runs along the gantry above, keeping pace. He stretches out a hand and presses down. The force slams into the train like a giant invisible hand driving it even faster. Metal screams. The wheels spit sparks. The tram becomes a battering ram. It plows into the cultist mass. Bodies fly. Bones snap. There is a blooming flash as one of the promethium drums ruptures and ignites. The front of the train becomes a rolling fireball. Heat slams up into Anakin's face. He smells burned oil and burned flesh. He feels the deaths in the Force, a sharp shock. He rides it, teeth bared, eyes hard. The fireball crashes into the open gate. The gate collapses inward, choking the tunnel with burning wreckage. Any enemy behind it is blocked or cooked alive. Anakin stops, breathing hard. Somewhere deep inside, a younger part of him flinches away from what he just did. He flooded a metal box with fuel and bodies and drove it into a wall. It is not a clean Jedi move. He thinks of Padme again. "I will do anything I must to stop worlds from burning," he says quietly. "But I will see them. I will not pretend it is clean." Codex note. Off-world psyker demonstrates gross telekinetic manipulation of heavy industrial loads, suggesting threat classification equivalent to an alpha-level sanctioned asset or nascent demon prince. By the time he returns to the main artery, the first wave is beaten back. Guard squads hold firm positions behind improvised barricades. Civilians stream past them in a shaky line. Medicaid teams work in the open, tying tourniquets, stitching wounds, giving last rites when they cannot save. General Holt arrives in a limping chimera. She jumps down, armor scraped and smoking. Her helmet is off again, tucked under one arm. Her short black hair is plastered with sweat. "You did it," she says, looking around. "You bought us room." "At a cost," Anakin says. He nods toward a section of collapsed ceiling where a few civilian bodies still stick out from under the rubble, covered only by sheets. Holt's mouth presses thin. "We will log their names," she says. "We will tell their families they died so the Hive could live. That is more than most get." "I could have chosen a slower, gentler path," Anakin says. "Saved more of them, maybe lost the corridor." "Then you made the right choice," Holt says. She stares him straight in the eye. "This is war, Skywalker. We do not get to be pure. We get to be effective." Before Anakin can answer, a new sound tears through the sky. A deep, thunderous roar, like a giant beast cutting through the air. Everyone looks up. Splitting the smoke above the Hive are 3 aircraft. They are not like any ships Anakin has seen. Each is shaped like a flying gun, all hard lines and armored plates with wide wings full of thrusters. Massive cannons hang under their noses. They fall fast, then flare engines and hover with brutal grace. "Thunderhawks," Holt says, awe and relief in her voice. "Knights of the Dawn." The gunships open their side hatches. Figures jump out, even though they are still many stories above the ground. They fall in controlled arcs, thrusters flaring from their armored boots. When they hit the street, the ground shakes. Space Marines. They tower over the guardsmen, 8 feet of gene-forged muscle wrapped in white and gold power armor. Their pauldrons bear the image of a rising sun over a sword. Each carries a bolt gun, like a heavy tool in one hand, and a chainsword or power sword in the other. The lead Marine's helm is off. His face is weathered, scarred, and calm. His eyes are bright blue, cold and focused. A wreath of metal and laurel surrounds his head on the armor's gorget. Captain Severian, Knights of the Dawn, he says. His voice booms from vox grills. By the Emperor's grace, we answer your call, Governor Holt. General, Holt corrects automatically, then stops herself. Welcome, Captain. Hive Carthaga is under full chaos assault. We are holding Kappa 7 to protect the core. Severian looks around. His gaze settles on Anakin's lightsaber, on the blue glow. On the way, the air bends around him. A witch, he says flatly. He turns to Holt. You consort with unsanctioned psykers in the open, General. He fell from the warp tear itself and saved my command, Holt says. Inquisitor Cold claims him as asset. He has been the spear at this choke point. Severian's eyes narrow. Inquisitor Cold, he asks. As in Varro Cold of the Ordo Hereticus. A new voice answers from a nearby chimera. Yes, Cold says, stepping into the light. His coat is still dusty from the upper tower. His acolytes stay at his shoulders like shadows. Captain, Cold continues, bowing his head a fraction. Good to see the knights still answer distress calls. We are in need. Severian glances at Cold, then back at Anakin. This psyker is under your seal, he asks. For now, Cold says. If he turns, I will burn him myself. Until then, he kills traitors. He has already felled word-bearers in single combat. Severian studies Anakin for a long breath. Then he gives a sharp nod. In that case, he says, I will judge him by his deeds today, not by his nature alone. He looks at Anakin directly. Which, fight in the Emperor's sight. Do not betray this trust. I fight to protect people, Anakin says. That is my code. Then our purposes meet, for now, Severian says. His grim mouth almost softens. Come, we must plan the next blow. This was only the first wave. They move into a nearby manufactorum admin block. The wide hall smells of ink, machine oil, and incense. A huge Aquila icon hangs over a central table where a holomap is already being set up again, fed by Vox and Cogitator lines. Officers, guardsmen, and a few robed priests gather. This is the War Council. Anakin stands across from Holt, Cald, and Severian. A plump man in ornate robes with a gold Aquila necklace stands between two junior priests. He is Confessor Halix, the spiritual voice for the Hive. His eyes shine with fevered faith. The holomap shows their section of the Hive. Red clusters mark cultist mobs and word-bearer squads. Blue and green show guard and Astartes positions. A pulsing white point marks the manufactorum core. You bought us time, Holt says, pointing to Kappa 7. Skywalker's actions collapsed several side access points and eliminated 3 major cult masses. Our flank is safer than it was. At the cost of Imperial lives, Confessor Halix says sharply. He points with a jeweled finger at casualty marks. Innocents buried under rock, workers burned in his tram fire. That tram would have become a bomb for the enemy anyway, Holt says. Her voice is flat. We used it on our terms instead of theirs. Halix glares at Anakin. You are a psyker, he says, an unbound alien psyker. The warp whispers around you like a storm. You say you fight for us, yet you kill our people in the same breath as the enemy. Anakin takes the blow. He does not flinch. He meets the priest's eyes. I know what I did, he says. I know what it cost. In my war, I tried to save everyone, every time. I failed. Millions died because we did not make hard choices fast enough. I will not make that mistake again, but I will not stop feeling it. Feeling is a luxury, Halix says. Faith is duty. Duty is sacrifice. Those who died blocking that corridor did so in the Emperor's light. But you, witch, you must understand that your feelings do not matter. Only results. Cald raises a hand. Confessor, he he says. We must not pretend the human cost is an afterthought. If we forget it completely, we become like the things we fight. We burn worlds too easily. Severian nods once. On the walls of the fortress monastery, the captain says, we have names carved for 10,000 years. Brothers who died so others would not. We remember every one. We do not weep forever, but we remember. Skywalker's regret is not weakness if it does not stop his sword. Halleck sniffs, but does not push further. Holt points to new red marks. The next push will be heavier. Our scouts report word-bearer heavy infantry and at least one demon engine moving toward the core. They will try to breach Kappa 7 again or find another route. Demon engine? Anakin asks. Karl answers. A machine fused with a bound warp entity, he says. Metal and flesh, powered by hate. They are resistant to normal weapons and can drink the souls of the unwary. Anakin thinks of droid tanks and starfighters. Then he adds a layer of horror and madness in his mind. Good, he says dryly. Something simple. No one laughs. Holt taps another cluster of runes. We also have reports of cultists surrendering in pockets near the choke point, she says. Some have thrown down arms, begged for mercy. Standard protocol is summary execution to prevent spread of corruption. Anakin's jaw tightens. Summary execution, he says. No trial, no chance to break whatever hold these gods have on them. Halleck slams his palm on the table. Chaos is a disease, he says. A word, a symbol, a song can turn a faithful worker into a screaming heretic. There is no cure once the rot has taken root. We burn it out. We do not give it time to grow. There are levels of taint, Karl says, voice calm. I have seen men freed when the source of the corruption was cut. I have also seen kindness lead to a new outbreak years later. The line is hard to draw. Severian's gaze is level as stone. On the battlefield, he says, we do not have years to do soul surgery. We have minutes, seconds. If there is doubt, we err on the side of purity. We kill one who might be saved to prevent 1,000 from falling. That is the creed of the Astartes. Anakin feels anger stir. You speak of people as if they are numbers on a board, he says. In the war I come from, the enemy also claimed that. They said, we will kill a few to make order to save the many. It ended with children burning. Harlex bristles. You speak of your own galaxy as if it matters here, he says. This is the Imperium. We have stood for 10,000 years against things your mind cannot grasp. Mercy is not kindness when it gives the enemy a chance to whisper again. Anakin looks at Holt. What do you do? He asks. Not in theory, in practice. Holt's face is tired. I do what the situation allows, she says. If I can separate them from their leaders, cut off the worst voices, I sometimes put low-level cultists in labor camps, under watch, under preachers who might bring them back. If I cannot control the spread, I sign the order. And you sleep? Anakin asks. Badly, Holt said. But my hive still stands. Up to now, Anakin has led a hard-won defense, made bloody choices to save many at the cost of a few, and seen how this Imperium treats mercy as a risk, not a virtue, while war leaders argue over whether souls can be saved without risking the whole city. Before the debate can settle, the room shakes. Lamps sway, dust falls from the ceiling. Vox units squeal with static. A tech priest rushes in. His lower half is a cluster of metal legs. Cables snake from his back into a data slate. His voice is half human, half machine buzz. Magos Logi report anomalous warp activity, he intones. Localized spike in proximity to Kappa 7 axis and Manufactorum core. Data pattern indicates targeted resonance. Signature correlation with off-world psyker Skywalker. Everyone looks at Anakin. He suddenly feels cold. The force around him churns. It is not a general storm now. It is a focused beam. Something is searching along the line that brought him here. He hears a voice. Not Palpatine, not Obi-Wan. Another voice, oily and smooth, layered over itself. You ran from one destiny, child of sand. Will you run from this one too? He flinches. His hand goes to his temple. Pain lances behind his eyes. The room blurs for a second. Cald steps closer. What are you feeling? The Inquisitor asks. Tell me now. They found the rope. Anakin manages. The link from there to here. They are tugging it. The tech priest projects new images into the hollow. A ghostly trace appears, starting at the tear in the sky above the hive, arcing down through the manufacturum core and ending in a bright pulse where Anakin stands. Around that trace, red spikes flash like teeth. These patterns match word-bearer warp liturgies, the tech priest says. Specific subcant, rite of the bound seraph, used to chain a powerful warp entity to a holy place or weapon. Bound seraph, Severian repeats. His jaw tightens. They want to make him a chained angel, a weapon of chaos, tied to our own core. If they twist that link, Cult says, eyes dark, they could root a warp breach in our manufacturum, using him as the anchor. He would be their saint, their bomb. Anakin stares at the trace. The Force shows him a flash. He sees himself standing in the manufacturum core, but his eyes glow red. His saber burns black and crimson. Every swing tears open space. Guardsmen kneel in terror as cultists cheer his name. He snaps back with a choked breath. No, he says, I am not their weapon. Then we must stop the right, Cold says. The smarter foe has made their play. Which foe? Holt asks. Cald points to a new red icon. It shows a skull wrapped in scripture chains, surrounded by a halo of warp spikes. It moves through the underhive toward the core. Dark Apostle Malkion, Cald says. High Priest of the Word-Bearers warband on that battle barge. He leads their rituals. He will be anchoring the right. Inquisitor's log, Cald says quietly, voice recorded by a servo's skull, hovering near his shoulder. Dark Apostle Malkion is not simply a stronger warrior. He carries a living scripture that bends the warp around his words. When he speaks, reality listens. The off-world psyker's power flows through the same sea Malkion chants to. That means the Apostle can poison the very channel Skywalker uses for strength, turning his own force into chains or backlash if we are careless. Can we cut the link? Anakin asks. Break whatever channel they are using. The tech priest's mechadendrites twitch. Negative, he says. Warp resonance is anchored on two fixed points, the breach above and the soul node designated Skywalker. Until one of those points is severed, link persists. So I am the weak point, Anakin says, and the weapon. Welcome to how psykers live, Cald says dryly. We are all bombs with legs. Most of us just lack your yield. Holt grimaces. Options? She demands. Straight, now. We have 3, Cald says. 1. Kill Skywalker now. No anchor, no right. We lose a powerful asset, but we deny them their tool. The room goes very quiet. Harlix visibly approves. Severian's face is unreadable. Holt's jaw muscles twitch. Anakin watches Cald without blinking. 2, Cald continues, almost daring anyone to speak. We lock Skywalker in a stasis field, if we can get one here in time. That would freeze his soul and slow the right, but not stop it. The link may seek another anchor. We lack certainty. And 3, Holt asks. We send Skywalker straight at Malkion, Cald says. We use the link against them. If they have a chain tied to him, he also has a chain tied to them. He can feel them. He can find them. He can cut them. That puts him exactly where they want him, Severian says. Inside their ritual, under their guns. Yes, Carl says. It also gives us a chance to break the rite and remove the head of this assault. If he succeeds, the warp tear may close or at least stabilize. If he fails, we are no worse off than if we had killed him. Speak of me as if I am not here, Anakin says, voice flat. It is fine. Holt looks at him. What do you want? She asks. Not as a weapon, as a man. Anakin thinks of Padme dying in childbirth in a future that may already have changed. He thinks of Mustafar. He thinks of all the times he rushed ahead, sure only he could fix things, and how that pride helped break everything. I want a chance to do this right, he says. I want to stop them before they turn me into something I hate. If I run or hide, they will still pull on the chain. They will still try to use me. If I go to them, I choose how. Severian nods once. It is a brave answer, the captain says, or a suicidal one. Sometimes the two are the same. Hallex frowns deeply. You would entrust the fate of this hive to an unsanctioned witch, he says. This reeks of hubris. The Emperor tests us, and you reach for the most dangerous tool. The Emperor also gave us this tool, Holt snaps, unless you think he lost control of his own galaxy and let this man fall here by accident. Hallex opens his mouth, then closes it. He crosses himself in the Aquila sign and looks troubled. Kald smirks faintly. I am not arrogant enough to claim to know the Emperor's plan, the Inquisitor says, but I know this. We have a weapon, and we have an enemy priest who thinks he can turn it. We either act with courage or we wait to die pure. I prefer fighting. The council splinters into shorter arguments. One officer raises the risk of civilian panic if they see Anakin working openly. A priest worries that Anakin will become an object of worship, polluting faith. A guardsman representative says his people already saw Anakin bleed beside them. They will follow him over any priest. Freedom versus doctrine. Anakin stands in the middle of it, feeling like he is back in the Jedi Council chamber. Only everything here is heavier and louder. In his old life, the debates were about treaties and ideals. Here, every choice seems to hang over a pit full of screaming souls. Finally, Holt slams her fist on the table. Enough, she says. We can argue until the hive falls. We take option 3. Skywalker will strike at Malkion. Hallex starts to object. She cuts him off with a look sharp enough to cut steel. You may bless the blades, she says. You may shout at the walls. But I command this defense. The Emperor placed that duty on me. I will answer for it. Hallex seethes, then bows stiffly. As you will, General, he says. I will pray for a miracle, and for the strength to light the pyres if your gamble fails. Severian puts a heavy gauntlet on Anakin's shoulder. You will not go alone, the captain says. A squad of my brothers will accompany you. We are used to walking into rituals and cutting them apart. Kald nods. And one of my acolytes will carry a psi-dampening field, he says. Not enough to choke you, but enough to blur the chain the closer you get. We will try to damp what they can do to you while not stripping your power. Anakin breathes in. He feels the force wrapping around him, thick and buzzing. He feels the warp tear like a scar in the sky, itching inside his bones. He feels faintly the pull of Malkion's chant, a rhythm under everything. I will find him, he says, and I will stop him. Before they can move out, a runner bursts into the hall. He is covered in soot, blood on his sleeve. He pants, trying to stand at attention. "General," he gasps. "New contact. Something is moving in the underhive ahead of the Dark Apostle. Bigger than a tank. It ate a whole platoon's mines without firing a shot." Kald swears under his breath. "Of course," he says. "It is not enough that they bring an apostle. They bring his pet." Holt glares. "Plain language," she says. "Warp null engine," Kald says. "A walking shrine that silences the warp around it. Normally, the word-bearers use such things to shield themselves from our psykers. This time, they march it in front of their priest to clear a path." Anakin feels a new kind of dread. "Silences the warp?" he asks. "You mean, I will not be able to use the Force near it?" "That, or the Force will hurt you when you try," Kald says. "The stories vary. Some say minds crack. Some say powers rebound. All agree that such engines are poison to our kind." Severian's expression is grim. "Good," he says. "At least we know where the fight will be hardest." Anakin looks down at his hands. He flexes them. He tries gently to push on a nearby metal cup with the Force. It moves, easy, natural. He imagines reaching for the same cup while standing next to that null engine and feeling nothing. Or worse, feeling something break inside when he pushes. "I have fought without the Force before," he says. "Blasters, ships, my own hands. But I've never gone into a fight knowing the Force might be turned into a knife against me." Kald's voice softens a little. "Welcome to what mortal soldiers live with every day," he says. "They wake up knowing they will bleed and maybe die with no power at all. They fight anyway. You will too." Holt nods. "You are not just your power, Skywalker," she says. "I saw you see the field, move troops, use machines. You are a commander, a pilot, a fighter. If this engine strips you down to just that, you will still be worth 100 men." Anakin nods slowly. He has relied on the Force so long that the thought of losing it feels like losing a sense. But she is right. He was a slave before he knew he was a chosen one. He raced pods with his reflexes. He fixed machines with his hands. "I will adapt," he says. "And if the Force screams when I push, I will listen and change." The War Council breaks. Orders are carried out in a rush. Severian gathers a squad of his best. Kald outfits an acolyte with a bulky harness that hums with a deep, low field. Holt assigns a lean, hard-eyed guard platoon as support. Before Anakin leaves, Harlix steps in front of him. The Confessor looks up at him, eyes burning. "I do not trust you," Harlix says quietly. "I do not like what you are. But I cannot deny that the Emperor may be using you. So hear me, witch. If you stand in that core and the enemy tries to twist you, remember this. You are not a god. You are not a savior. You are a servant of something bigger than yourself, even if you do not know its name. Serve that, not your fear." Anakin swallows. "I used to think I was chosen," he says. "That I was meant to bring balance. It broke me. If I serve anything now, it is the people who will die if I fail." "That may be enough," Halleck says, "or it may not. But if you turn on us, I will light the pyre myself." He presses a small iron aquila into Anakin's hand. "Not as a chain," Halleck says, "as a reminder that no matter how strong you are, there are things beyond you. Humility, which it may save your soul." Anakin nods and tucks the charm next to Kald's rosette in his belt. Two symbols of a faith he does not share, weighing on him. He feels their edges when he moves. He thinks of his old Jedi braid, cut away. As he steps out toward the staging area, the hive around him shakes again. Far above, the word-bearer battle barge shifts position. Its guns spit lances of hateful light at the planet's shield generators. Far below, in the dark, Something huge and quiet moves toward the manufactorum, swallowing the warp itself. Anakin walks into the war, flanked by angelic giants and hunted by a priest of monsters who has found the crack in his soul. The assault force rolls toward the Underhive in a grinding line of steel. Anakin sits in the lead chimera with Captain Severian, Inquisitor called Acolyte, and a handful of guardsmen. The hull rattles from distant blasts. The air inside smells of metal, sweat, and oil. Red Vox runes flicker on a panel, spitting urgent updates. Carl's face appears in a small holoprojector. The picture is clearer now, the Inquisitor says. Malkion is leading a rite in a manufactorum chapel near the core. He uses the warp null engine as a shield in front of him. The engine crushes our psykers and masks his exact position. Standard counters fail because every tool we trust is blunted. Artillery? Holt's voice cuts in from another channel. Can we shell the whole complex? Negative, Kalt says. The manufactorum houses 3 primary plasma reactors feeding this, Hive and 2 others. A direct hit could cripple the planet or blow it apart. We need a knife, not a hammer. Severian glances at Anakin. Today the knife is a witch and 8 of my brothers, he says. We cut the head and pray the body dies. What about the engine? Anakin asks. If it shuts down my power, before I reach Malkion, I will be one more man with a glowing stick. Better than most men, Severian says. But yes, we must clear the engine or bypass it. Our bolters and blades can break it if we can get close. Its null field will hurt us too, but less. Carl's voice stays calm. Remember, he says, the link runs both ways. As we get closer, Malkion will see you more clearly. Use that. Let him tug on the chain. Pull back when it hurts. Find the source. Anakin nods. I grew up racing pods with a bomb in the engine, he says. I know how to dance on the edge of an explosion. The Chimera jerks to a halt. The rear ramp slams down. Heat and stench roll in. Rot, oil, sewage, blood. The Underhive opens before them like a dead throat. They disembark. Severian's squad of Knights of the Dawn spreads out, white and gold in the gloom. Their armor lamps cut tunnels of light through the dark. Guard squads fan around them, weapons up, boots splashing in filthy water. The Puesai damper harness on Call's Acolyte hums with a low, steady throb. The Underhive is a maze. Rusting walkways cross over black pits. Pipes drip green and brown slime. Walls are covered in graffiti. 8-pointed stars, bleeding skulls, twisted prayers in jagged letters. Candles gutter in broken alcoves, casting shaky light on icons with their faces scratched off. Anakin reaches into the Force. It answers, but slower. The air here is thick with fear and old hate. Every whisper seems closer. He feels Malkion's chant like a deep drumbeat far away. They round a corner and find the first sign of the warp null engine's work. A whole guard squad stands in a line in the middle of the tunnel. They hold their laser guns at rest. Their faces are blank, eyes wide open, pupils huge. They do not blink. A sergeant from Anakin's support platoon rushes up. These were first platoon, she says, voice tight. They went in 10 minutes ahead of us. They're breathing, but... Anakin steps close to one of the frozen guardsmen. He waves a hand in front of the man's face. Nothing. He reaches gentle fingers into the Force, trying to touch the man's mind. Pain stabs him. It feels like his fingertips just brushed a jagged blade. He jerks back. The Force recoils. What did you feel? Severian asks. Nothing, Anakin says. That is the problem. Like someone cut the thread between their minds and everything else. They are stuck, half present. No fear, no will. Carl's Acolyte checks a slate. Neural activity minimal, she says. Pulse steady. Psi active wave flat. They are alive, but their souls are muffled. Warp null engine did this, Cal's voice comes through Vox. It eats not just psychic power, but the connection between man and warp. We believe the Emperor's light reaches humans through that same channel. Cut it, and they become meat that walks. Severian's mouth tightens. Mercy, he says softly. He draws his bolt pistol. He looks at the frozen guardsman for a long second. Anakin knows what is coming. Wait, he says. Can we move them back, away from the field, see if they wake? Severian shakes his head. We do not have time, he says. If the engine moves closer, the damage may be permanent. If we leave them, they might be taken and twisted. I will not let my brothers become puppets. He raises the pistol and fires. Each bolt round is a tiny rocket that explodes inside the skull. The line of guardsmen falls, one by one, without a sound. Blood and bone paint the wall. Anakin clenches his fists. He hates it. He understands it. The two feelings grind against each other like stones. Move, Severian says. We honor them by ending the thing that did this. They push deeper. The ground trembles with a slow, heavy thud. Pipes overhead rattle in time with it. The air grows colder. The force starts to thin, like air at the edge of space. Anakin feels it with each step. At first, it is a dull pressure in his ears, then a ringing, then a numbness under his skin, where the force used to hum. They reach a wide maintenance chamber. Broken machines lie in heaps. Broken people too. Some are cultists, torn apart by bolter fire. Some are civilians caught in crossfire. All lie under a new shadow. The warp null engine stands in the center. It is a walking shrine built from stolen parts. Tank tracks form its base. Above them, a cage of iron and bone holds a figure wrapped in chains and script. Skulls hang from hooks, eyes replaced with black stones. Pipes pour out oily smoke that smells of burnt incense and cold iron. At its top is a bell that swings with each step. There is no sound from the bell, but each swing sends another wave of nothing through the air. Flames near it dim. Lights flicker and go out. The engine moves slowly down a side tunnel toward the manufactorum core. Guard corpses lie behind it with their eyes open and empty. Some look like they died of fear. Some like they just forgot to breathe. The engine stops when it sees them. Of course it does not see like a man, but something in it marks their presence. The bell hangs still. The black stones in the skulls flick toward Anakin. Anakin tries to call his saber to his hand from his belt. It does not move. He tries again, harder. Nothing. It might as well be nailed to his hip. His stomach drops. The field is strong here, Carl's acolyte says. Her harness whines as it pushes back against the null wave. Sweat beads on her forehead. She looks like she is holding a heavy weight. No one else can see. Anakin reaches inside. The force is not gone. It is there, but something is wrapped around it, thick and cold. When he pushes, the cold pushes back. His teeth ache. Do not force it, Cal warns in his ear. You could tear something in your mind. Fight with what you have. Anakin takes a breath. He draws his saber by hand, thumb on the switch. Blue light snaps out. Even that looks dimmer here. Severian raises his chainsword. Knights of the Dawn, he calls. On me. Target. Warp null engine. We take its heart. The Marines charge. Their boots thunder on the metal floor. Bolters bark, slamming heavy shells into the engine's body. Chunks of armor and bone fly off, but the thing keeps moving. It answers. Pipes on its sides swivel and spit clouds of black mist. The mist rolls toward the charging Marines and guardsmen. Where it passes, lamps go out. Men stumble as their sense of self blurs. Anakin feels part of himself dim as the cloud touches him. His thoughts slow. His memories smear at the edges. For a second he is back on Tatooine, then on Mustafar, then in a Jedi Council seat, all at once. He bites his tongue. Pain is simple. Pain is real. The shock snaps him back. "Stay in the harness field," the acolyte yells. She steps forward, the side damper humming louder. Around her, the mist curls and thins. The Marines push through. Severian hits the engine's front with a roar. His chainsword bites into metal and bone, teeth screaming. Another Marine slams a melter charge against the side. The blast punches a glowing hole straight through armor. The engine shudders. In the cage, at its center, the chained figure spasms. For a moment, Anakin's force sense clears. He feels a human mind inside that cage, broken, screaming without sound. Then the bell swings. A silent clang rolls out. Anakin drops to his knees, clutching his head. It feels like someone took the force and twisted it into a knot inside his skull. Every nerve burns. He hears a high, thin ringing. Guardsmen around him cry out and fall. Some just slump, eyes going blank. Others vomit. One starts banging his head against the floor until a comrade stops him. Severian staggers. Even a space marine is not immune. His chainsword skids off the engine's armor as his muscles twitch. Two of his brothers fall back, disoriented. The engine raises one crude arm. A cluster of long, hooked blades swings down toward the Marine squad like the claws of a crane. Anakin forces himself up. The Force is a field of knives inside him now. But he has lived with pain before. He cannot push it outward without ripping himself. But he can still move his body. He runs. Feet pound on metal. The world tilts and warps around the edges. But the center is clear. The engine's exposed side, the weak spot from the melter blast. He jumps. The jump is human height. No force boost. He barely catches the edge of a bent plate. His ribs scream as his chest hits metal. He drags himself up by hand. For a second, his saber slips from his grasp. He snatches it with numb fingers and rolls onto the engine's back. The silent bell swings over his head. He crawls toward the cage. Up close, the chained figure is a horror. It is hard to tell if it is man or woman. Skin is carved with wards and numbers. Eyes are sewn shut with wire. Mouth gagged with metal. Anakin feels a flicker of connection. Even through the null field, some tiny thread runs from that broken mind to the warp. The engine is cutting that mind to cut the warp. Someone turned a living person into a plug. The bell swings again. Agony rips through him. His muscles seize. He almost falls. He screams without sound. For a heartbeat, he hears another scream under his own. The chained psyker's soul cries out, raw and bright. It is not a chaos thing. It is just a person, tortured and trapped. Anakin reacts on instinct. He thrusts his saber down into the cage. The blade cuts chains, metal, bone. The smell of burnt flesh fills his nose. The figure jerks once and goes still. The null field lurches. For a sick moment it spikes. The force vanishes. Everything in him falls silent. Then, like a bubble popping, it rushes back. Light floods his senses. He feels Severian below, slamming his chainsword deep into the engine's front. He feels guardsmen firing, praying, crying. He feels Khald's acolyte collapsing as the load on her harness drops. The engine screams, not with a human voice, with metal tearing and a dozen stolen souls howling as the field shatters. The bell cracks down the middle. Black stones explode from skull sockets. Anakin jumps clear. This time the Force answers. He pushes hard. The air catches him. He lands in a roll next to Severian as the engine starts to fall. "Down!" he shouts. They dive aside. The warp null engine crashes to the floor in a heap of ruined shrine and meat. Silence falls for a moment. Real silence, not the dead one it made. Then the noise of the hive rushes back in. Distant guns, clanking machines, men groaning, cursing, breathing. Anakin lies on his back, chest heaving. His head still hurts. Blood trickles from his nose. But the force is his again, raw and buzzing. Severian stands and offers a big, armored hand. "Well struck, witch," the captain says. "You freed that poor soul and gave us back our minds." The Emperor sees such deeds. Anakin takes the hand and lets himself be hauled up. He looks at the ruin of the engine. He thinks of the chained psyker, used as a tool, then killed by his blade. "I do not know if freed is the right word," he says quietly, "but they are not screaming anymore." Codex note: warp null engines of this pattern rely on sacrificed psykers as living anchors. Destroying the host shatters the field, but risks a volatile warp backlash that can injure or empower nearby psi-active beings. They do not have time to rest. Kald's voice snaps through Vox again. "Good," he says. The null readings just dropped, but Malkion's chant spiked. He knows his shield is down. He will rush the right. "Direction?" Severian barks. "Northeast, down 2 levels, Kald replies. "Old Manufactorum Chapel of St. Virel. You will feel it when you are close. Skywalker, be warned. Without the null field, the link to you will be stronger." Anakin already feels it. A tug in his chest, pulling him toward the core. Words hiss just under hearing. Promises slide like oil through his thoughts. They move. Down sloping tunnels filled with steam and broken statues. Past improvised altars smeared with blood and cog teeth. Over bodies of cultists cut down by earlier skirmishes. As they descend, the air changes. It grows warmer. The rumble of huge machines under the floor gets louder. Blue sparks crawl along metal walls. The Manufactorum core is close. They reach a set of massive doors. Once, they were carved with Imperial symbols and saints. Now they are overpainted with 8-pointed stars and crawling script. The metal glows faintly red, hot from power beyond. The doors are slightly open. Warp light leaks through the gap. A sick, shifting purple-red glow that hurts to look at. Whispers bleed out clearer now. Chosen, betrayed, ours. Severian signals. 2 Marines take positions on each door. Guard squads spread out, weapons ready. Anakin steps to the front, saber in hand, heart hammering. The captain looks at him. "This is your chain," Severian says. "Cut it." They shove the doors wider. The chapel is a factory cathedral. Tall columns rise to a high roof hung with chains and servo lights. Conveyor belts run along the sides, carrying shell casings and machine parts. At the far end, where the altar once stood, a great hole has been cut into the floor, exposing a shaft of burning light from the reactors below. Over that shaft, on a platform of fused metal and bone, stands Dark Apostle Malkion. He wears crimson armor covered in scripture plates. His helm is a snarling demon face. Chains hang from his arms, each bearing a skull or a book. Around him float books made of skin, pages turning in an unseen wind. His voice fills the chamber. It is not loud, but every word lands heavy, like a weight on the heart. Chains of light run from him into the air, into the hole, into symbols carved on the walls, and into an invisible point in front of Anakin's chest. Anakin feels the pull. It is not just pressure. It is recognition. Malkion's words wrap around his old fears like vines around a cracked stone. Child of a dead galaxy, Malkian says, looking up. You run from your fate and yet drag it behind you like a chain. Did you think the gods would not see? Anakin steps into the chapel. Behind him, Severian and the Marines spread out, bolters tracking cultists in balconies and aisles. Guardsmen take cover behind broken machinery, lining up shots. Malkian of the Word-Bearers. Karl's voice hisses in Anakin's ear. Target confirmed. Remember the interlude. His words are not just sound. Do not let them settle in your mind. Malkian spreads his arms. I offer you what your Jedi and your cold Emperor never could, he says. An end to your fear of loss. Power not as a duty, but as a gift. The Dark Gods understand you, Anakin Skywalker. They felt your rage when your order caged you. They heard your scream on that burning world. Images slam into Anakin's head. Padme lying on a white bed, skin pale, reaching for him. Obi-Wan turning his back on a broken, burning man. The Jedi Council sitting in a circle, doubting him. Each picture twists, painted in red and black. Stop, Anakin growls. He tries to push the images away with the Force. The Force moves, but chains of red scripture wrap around it, yanking his push back into his own chest. Pain explodes behind his breastbone. He staggers, gasping. It feels like someone just punched him through the heart with a hot knife. He almost drops his saber. Malkian laughs softly. Your power flows through my script now, the Apostle says. Every time you reach, you pull on my chain. Every time you fight, you feed my right. You are the key, little off-world angel. Space Marines open fire. Bolters thunder. Explosive rounds slam into Malkian's armor and the books around him. Purple shields flare, each rune a tiny fortress. The bullets slow and fall, spent. Cultists drop from balconies and rush the aisles. Guard lasguns answer, cutting them down in lines of red light. Chainswords buzz. Bodies fall. The whole chapel becomes a moving battle. But Anakin only has eyes for Malkian. He grits his teeth and steps forward again. He cannot stop using the Force. It is part of him, but he can choose how. He stops trying to shove Malkian. Instead, he pulls on himself. He wraps the Force tight around his own muscles, his own nerves, closing it like armor instead of throwing it. It still burns where the chains touch it, but less. He runs. The platform over the reactor shaft is reached by a series of narrow catwalks. He sprints along one, boots ringing on metal. Malkian's chains whip out, smashing into the railing. Lances of red light cut the air. They are not solid. They are words made into blades. They carve grooves in the floor where they pass, leaving letters burning like coals. Anakin ducks, jumps, rolls. He uses the Force in tiny, sharp bursts. A quick boost to clear a gap, a flick to yank a chain aside, a nudge to steady his foot on a slick patch. Each time, the chains tug back through his chest. Each time, pain flares. By the time he reaches the main platform, his breaths are short and ragged. His chest feels raw inside. His hands shake. But he stands. Malkian steps down to meet him. Up close, the Dark Apostle's armor is worse. Faces push out of the metal like trapped souls. His helm's eyes burn with warp light. His voice is softer here, almost kind. You could end this all, Malkian says, almost gently. You could close the tear over this hive forever in one act. You know this. You feel it. He lifts one scripture-covered hand. Around them, the chains of light tighten. The shaft below roars brighter. The whole chapel groans. Give yourself to the gods, Malkian says. Let them pour through you as a vessel. Your love, your fear, your rage. All of it will become a bridge. You will save this world by letting ours flood into it. No more random death. No more blind fate, only truth and power. Anakin grips his saber. The words hit exactly where he is weakest. Save everyone. Control death. Make the pain mean something. For one sick heartbeat, he sees himself standing where Malkion stands. Script carved in his flesh. Hair burned away. Eyes full of red light. He speaks, and the Force obeys him without question, reshaping whole worlds. Padme stands beside him, alive, smiling, untouched by time. Clones never betray him. Jedi never doubt him. He could fix everything. He sways. The chains of light move closer. One brushes his arm. It burns through sleeve and skin. He smells cooked flesh. Black script crawls from the wound, trying to write itself along his veins. He hears another voice. Not Malkion's, not the whispers. Soft and strong at once. Anakin, let go. It is Padme's voice in his memory. Standing on a balcony on Coruscant. Pregnant, worried, brave. I can't, he whispers. I can't lose you. You already did, the memory says, because you grabbed too hard. The Force shivers around him. For a moment, it is not thick and dirty. It is clear and bright, like when he was a child under twin suns. Warmth touches the edge of his mind, like a hand on a shoulder. He sees a golden figure for a split second, not in detail, just a giant shape on a throne of light, eyes like stars, hands bleeding light into a million threads, holding a dying galaxy together. Then the image is gone, but the warmth stays, like a distant sun behind thick clouds. Sacred intervention. The Emperor does not speak. He does not fix anything. He just reminds Anakin of a feeling he had almost forgotten. That power is not supposed to be about ownership. Anakin straightens. He looks Malkion in the burning eyes. My fear wrecked my world once, he says. I tore down everything to stop people I loved from dying. I became a monster in the name of love. I will not do that again. Not for your gods, not for anyone. He raises his saber, and I am done letting men like you tell me what my power is for. Malkion's voice loses its softness. So be it, the apostle snarls. Then you will die screaming, and your soul will be our toy. They clash. Malkion's staff is a long iron rod wrapped in scripture and topped with a demon's head. When it meets Anakin's saber, sparks of red and blue fly. The air around it tears in little rips. Each block sends a shock up Anakin's aching arms. Each time he strikes, the chains tug at his insides. He fights like a man punching through needles. Pain is constant, but he manages it. He falls back on training. Simple steps, basic parries, no flourishes, no big flashy moves that would demand huge bursts of force. Malkion fights like a priest used to being protected. His swings are wide, backed by warp strength and arrogance. He leans on his scripture, trusting it to block any counter. Anakin exploits it. He takes hits on his forearm instead of his chest, letting armor and sheer toughness soak it. He ducks under a high swing and jabs low at the knee. Armor cracks. Malkion snarls. Chains whip out, wrapping around Anakin's ankle, his wrist, his throat. They burn with script. Pain flares white hot. Anakin drops to one knee, choking. He feels letters carve themselves along his skin, trying to mark him as property. You cannot win, little angel, Malkion says, voice thick with triumph. You stand in my sermon. Every movement you make is another line in my book. Soon you will speak only my words. Anakin drops his saber. On purpose. Malkion laughs once, sharp and surprised. Anakin grabs the chain around his throat with both hands. Instead of trying to push the force out, he drags it in. He pulls on the link, hard. He follows it back like a line clenched between his teeth. not out into the warp where the gods sit, but sideways toward Malkion's own soul. It feels like jamming his arm into a nest of knives. The pain is beyond anything Mustafar gave him. His vision goes red, then white. He tastes blood. He hears Malkion scream, not with words, but with raw hurt. For a second, they are tied together. Anakin feels Malkion's faith like a furnace. Malkion feels Anakin's old guilt like a weight. They both stagger under the other's burden. "See it," Anakin gasps. "See what your gods really promise." He shoves memories down the chain. Children in the Jedi temple falling under a red blade. His own hand raised, fingers tight around a throat he loves. The moment on Mustafar when he realized he was the one who broke everything. Malkion chokes on it. Chaos feeds on pain, but not on this kind. This is not sweet rage or easy fear. This is the bitter knowledge that you are wrong. It stings like acid. The chains loosen. Anakin rips them off and surges forward. He kicks Malkion's staff aside and snatches his saber from the floor with a quick tug of the Force. The pull almost tears his chest, but he grits through it. Blue light flares. He drives the blade through Malkion's breastplate, between plates. For a heartbeat, the world stops. Malkion looks down at the glowing hole in his chest. Warp light leaks out, mixed with dark blood. Books around him burst into flame. "You could have saved her," Malkion rasps, "if you had kneeled." Anakin presses the hilt closer. "I will not save anyone by turning into you," he says. He twists the saber and pulls it free. Malkion staggers back. He topples into the shaft of reactor light behind him. As he falls, his armor splits, and something big and red and screaming tries to crawl out of his chest. The light sears it. The demon shape shrieks as the reactor's pure energy burns it away. Malkion's body vanishes into the glow. Chains of light snap one by one with sharp cracks. The whole chapel shakes. Script on the walls peels, turning into ash. The chains linking the tear in the sky to the core snap with loud, invisible bangs. Anakin feels the link in his chest break, not cleanly. When a chain snaps, it leaves marks. He gasps as phantom cuts open across his torso. Lines of heat race along his veins. For a second, he cannot breathe. Then air crashes back into his lungs. He drops to his knees. The Force around him howls. Not with chaos voices now, but with raw energy reeling from a broken path. He raises his hands and tries to steady it. He cannot close the tear. He is powerful, but not that much. The breach over the hive is smaller now, dimmer, but still there. He can feel it. A scar in the sky and in himself. He can, however, guide the backlash. He pushes the wild energy down into the empty shaft where Malkion fell, away from the city, away from soldiers, civilians, reactors. He takes the pain that comes with it. The platform cracks, metal buckles under his knees. Heat licks at his boots. He smells burning hair and cloth. He hears distant shouts. Arms grab him. Severian and another Marine haul him back from the edge as the center of the platform collapses into the shaft. Chunks of metal fall, glowing, into the reactor light. The warp roar fades. The chapel goes dim. Only the emergency lamps remain, flickering weakly. The Force settles into a new pattern. Not clean, but less twisted. Anakin sags against Severian's armored chest. His skin burns where Malkion's script touched him. Black, faint lines remain, curling up his neck and across his chest like half-faded tattoos. They itch and ache. "Status," Holt's voice barks over Vox. "Report," Cold answers. "The right is broken," he says. "Malkion is gone. The link is damaged. Hive readings show the warp pressure dropping by 40%. The tear is still present but no longer anchored to the core. Guardsmen cheer in ragged bursts. Some fall to their knees and make the sign of the Aquila, whispering thanks. Priests who followed the squad into the chapel raise litanies of praise to the Emperor. Anakin just breathes. He feels victory. He also feels the bodies on the floor. Cultists, yes. Guard, some civilians who had been chained up as sacrifices and did not survive the backlash. He stands on shaking legs and looks around. He did what he came here to do. He broke Malkion's plan. He also broke more people in the process. "Is this enough?" he asked quietly. "Did we save the Hive?" "For now," Cult says, "but the tear remains. The word-bearer battle barge still hangs above us. Their gods are angry. Angry gods are not patient. Up to now, Anakin has fought through a warp-null field, destroyed a twisted engine, faced the Dark Apostle who tried to use his fear to chain him, refused the offer to save everything by becoming a monster again, and shattered the ritual at the cost of deep wounds in his body and soul, leaving a damaged tear in the sky and a new scar in himself. Later, in a quieter chamber high in the Hive, the leaders gather again. Anakin sits on a metal bench, shirt off. Medici staff clean and dress the burns and chain wounds on his chest and arms. The black script lines under his skin will not wash away. They shine faintly when the lights flicker. Kald stands nearby, watching with a too careful gaze. Holt leans back against a wall, helmet under her arm, exhaustion etched in every line of her face. Confessor Hallex clutches his Aquila tight, lips moving in constant prayer. Severian stands at ease, hands clasped behind his back. The tear has shrunk but not closed, Holt says. Enemy drops have slowed. Our guns are pushing them back from the walls. Void shields are stable. Malkion's death has thrown their warband into confusion, Kald adds. Their chain of command is broken, but Chaos warbands are like weeds. Cut one head, two more can grow. Hallex looks at Anakin's scars. Those marks, he says quietly, they are of the dark gods. I know, Anakin says. I feel them itching when I reach for the Force. But I also feel something else. He closes his eyes for a moment. The Force answers his call. It hurts, as if moving a limb that was burned. But it moves. Under the pain, there is a faint warmth like the one he felt in the chapel. A golden thread woven through the scars. He cannot see its end, but he knows the direction. Up, out, toward Terra. The Emperor touched the link, Kald says, eyes narrowed. I felt it in my own wards. He did not speak, but his presence was there. That means this is no longer just a local matter. Holt groans softly. I was afraid you would say that, she says. I have a hive to rebuild, millions to feed, cult roots to burn out. And now you tell me my best asset is going to be taken away, to be judged by distant thrones. Severian nods slowly. Yet that is what must happen, the captain says. Skywalker is no longer just an off-world psyker. He is a man with chaos script on his skin and the Emperor's touch in his soul. He broke a Dark Apostle's right by sharing his own guilt. That is not normal. It must be weighed by higher hands. Hallex looks relieved and afraid at once. Yes, the confessor says, this is bigger than us. The Golden Throne must decide if he is a weapon, a saint, or a curse. Anakin flexes his fingers. You talk about me like I am a tool on a table, he says. But I understand. If I stay here, the tear might cling to me. More priests like Malkion might come. He thinks of Padme again, far away, in a time that might not exist anymore. He thinks of the Emperor on the throne of light. He thinks of all the people here who prayed as they charged into bullets. I will go, he says. I want to know what I am now. I want to stand in front of this emperor of yours and ask him what he expects from a man who has already failed. Holt steps forward. If they try to make you into a mindless weapon, she says, remember this hive. Remember the faces you saved and the ones you lost. Remember that our lives were not numbers to you. Hold on to that, whatever they say. Kald nods. As Inquisitor, I will sponsor your passage, he says. My ship is warp capable and sanctioned to approach Terra's gates. Severian and his squad can escort us. Their chapter has standing with the Adeptus Custodes. Anakin blinks. The who? He asks. Golden warriors who guard the Emperor himself, Severian says. You will not meet them lightly, but with an Inquisitor at your side and the Emperor's own touch on your soul, they may agree to let you come close. Hallex clutches his Aquila tighter. If you stand in that presence and you are false, the Confessor says, you will burn, body and soul. Better that than becoming what Malkion wanted, Anakin says. Kald studies him one last time. There will be no lies there, the Inquisitor says. The Emperor will see everything in you, your fear, your pride, your rage, your regret. I know, Anakin says. I am tired of hiding from it. Holt pushes away from the wall. Then go, she says. Leave my world before your tear decides to widen again. We will hold the line here. If you can, when you stand before your Emperor, remember Gavriel IX. Remember Hive Carthaga. Ask for more than just weapons. Ask for mercy that does not kill us. Anakin nods slowly. I will try, he says. He pulls his shirt back on. The cloth hides the black script, but he can still feel it. He can also feel Kald's rosette at his belt, Hallex's iron Aquila, and the warm, faint line stretching toward Terra. He steps toward the embarkation lifts that will take them to Kald's ship. Behind him, the hive rumbles, a wounded giant still breathing. Ahead of him, flat black stars wait, and somewhere beyond them, a throne of gold, where a broken man like him will be judged by a broken god who still refuses to die. The inquisitorial cruiser knifes into the void like a black spear. Gunmetal hull stretches for kilometers. A band of windows near the spine shows a strip of stars and one wounded world shrinking behind them. Gavriel IX becomes a pale coin, then dust. Ahead, the warp roils, like a storm behind glass. Inside the ship is a city. Anakin walks its halls with Captain Severian and Inquisitor called. Servo skulls drift overhead, carrying sensors. Walls are lined with purity seals and warning pictograms. Do not listen to voices in the warp. The air tastes of metal, incense, and recycled breath. In the Medicae bay, they clean his wounds again. Auto-surgeons hum. Medicae servitors with steel hands dab at the black script scars curling over his chest. The marks pulse faintly, like sick veins. Each time they do, the iron Aquila and the inquisitorial rosette at his belt tingle. Kald watches from the corner. You know those lines will never fully fade, the Inquisitor says. They are channels. The gods wrote them to reach you. The Emperor burned his own counterscript into them when he brushed your soul. So I am a battlefield, Anakin says, for gods I do not serve, and a god I have never met. You serve people, Kald says. That is why I trust you, a little. But you must learn to carry both scripts without losing yourself. Severian steps closer, arms crossed over his armor. In the legions, scars are reminders, he says, not decorations. Each one is a lesson in what you did wrong and right. These will remind you that you walked into a sermon and broke it by facing your own sin. Anakin looks down at his chest. He does not like the marks. He does not like that they itch when he thinks of fear, but he understands. Then I will treat them as that, he says, not as chains, as warnings. Later, he sits in a small ship's chapel. The walls are covered with carved scenes. The Emperor in golden armor, fighting a giant in baroque spikes, space battles, cities burning and being rebuilt. Candles flicker. The floor is worn by knees and boots. Confessor Harlix did not come. He stayed on Gavriel IX to bury his dead and rebuild faith. Instead, a quiet ship chaplain tends this shrine, saying little, watching Anakin with wary curiosity. Severian kneels in the front row. Cold stands at the back, arms folded. Anakin sits halfway, not kneeling, not standing, between worlds, between codes. You killed that warp null psyker, Severian says, not looking back. You slew Malkion. You held back the backlash and saved the core. All of this cost you pieces of yourself. Was it worth it? Anakin thinks. I did not see another way in the seconds I had, he says. I could not leave that person trapped in that engine. I could not let Malkion chain me again. People lived. So, yes, it was worth it. But I feel every cut. That is the weight of command, Severian says. Astartes are taught. Accept the cost. Do not run from it. Do not wallow in it. You cannot save everyone. You can decide whose deaths mean something. That sounds like the Jedi, and like the Sith, depending on who says it, Anakin mutters. What keeps your creed from sliding into theirs? Severian turns his scarred face. The line is simple, he says. We bleed before we ask others to bleed. We do not seek power for ourselves, only for the cause. When in doubt, we err on the side of protecting the weak, not our pride. Kald snorts softly. Even angels can forget that, he says. Thus the heresy, thus the Inquisition, thus me. Anakin looks between them. Dogma, cost, my own code. Somewhere in here, I have to find a way that does not turn me into another Malkion, or another Palpatine, or another you, Kald says quietly. The one you might have been if you had taken the Dark Apostle's offer. Before Anakin can answer, the ship shudders. A deep, slow tremor runs through the deck. Chapel candles gutter sideways. A distant alarm whoops once, then cuts off. The chaplain looks up, frowning. Translation to the warp should be complete, he said. We should not feel this much turbulence. The Vox on Kald's wrist snaps to life. Bridge to Inquisitor, a tense voice says. Unscheduled warp eddies off the port bow. Gellerfield is holding, but something is pressing against it. Psyker reading spiking. Kald's gaze snaps to Anakin. Center yourself, he says. This is not coincidence. They hurry to a Gellerfield observation blister. Thick crystal shows the warp outside. A sea of impossible colors, twisting shapes, and screaming lights held at bay by a shimmering barrier. Normally, the Gellerfield keeps the horror out, making it look distant and blurred. Now, something presses up against the field from the other side. A tall figure in black armor, taller even than a space marine, looms like a shadow-given shape. A mask hides its face, smooth with gaping eyes and a grill over the mouth that rasps with each breath. A red blade burns in its hand, crackling with corrupted power. Anakin's throat tightens. He knows this shape. He has never worn it, but he has seen it in visions, in nightmares, in Palpatine's promises. Darth Vader, he whispers. The shadow tilts its head. It cannot be heard through the field. But the words land in his mind anyway, clear as if they were spoken in his ear. I am what you were meant to be, it says. A knight for an empire of iron. You turned away. Now you play at being humble in a galaxy more cruel than your own. You think your small mercy matters here? Mirror foe B. The broken future that never finished, hijacked by the warp and given teeth. It paces along the outside of the field, like a predator testing a cage. Severian's hand rests on his chainsword. He cannot strike through the field. No one can. This is not a physical boarding. It is something else. Khald's voice is low. The warp has shaped your fear into a mask it knows, he says. Or something has grabbed that shape and is using it to reach you. Either way, this thing is you, sharpened. The shadow raises its free hand. The Geller field flickers where its fingers touch, not breaking, but dimming. On the ship, lights stutter. A few distant screams echo down corridors. You cannot protect these people, the Vader shape's voice murmurs in Anakin's mind. Look at this empire. Look at their dogma. Look at their inquisitors and angels. They will use you until you break, then burn you. Come with me. Together, we will seize this Imperium, bend it straight. No more random cruelty. Perfect order, perfect safety. Anakin feels the pull. This is his flaw, held like a knife to his throat. The promise of control instead of trust, of ruling instead of serving. He sees flashes. Himself in black armor, standing behind the Emperor of Mankind's throne, not as servant, but as partner. The Inquisition kneels. Space Marines obey without question. Worlds fall in line. No one starves. No one rebels. No one chooses anything at all. It is peace without freedom. His hands shake. The script scars on his chest burn, words crawling up his neck. The Emperor's counter-script hums under them, hot and faint. The two forces strain like ropes pulling him in opposite directions. Severian's hand clamps on his shoulder. Remember Gavriel IX, the captain says. Remember the choice to pull the tram, to drop the ceiling, to feel the cost and still act. That was not control for its own sake. That was duty. Khald steps to Anakin's other side. Remember Mustafar, he says. Remember what chasing total control did to you. You told me your world burned because you grabbed too tight. Are you going to repeat that mistake with 10,000 more planets? The Vader Shadow's voice sharpens. These men will send you to their Emperor and let him judge you like an animal, it hisses. He will chain you if you submit, burn you if you do not. I offer you equality, power without chains. Anakin breathes, in, out, slow. I do not want to be equal to tyrants, he says, more to himself than anyone. I do not want to be above anyone. I want to stand where people are dying and say, not today, and know I did not become a monster to do it. He steps forward until he is almost touching the Geller shield. The shadow looms on the other side, red blade humming. I know you, Anakin says. I know what you cost. I saw the temple fall. I felt my hands around a throat I loved. I watched my own children grow up afraid of the man I became in some futures. The shadow flickers. For a moment, behind the mask, he sees his own eyes, yellow with hate and flooded with tears. You are not fate, Anakin says softly. You are a warning. He presses his palm to the field. He does not push the force outward. He pulls inward again, like with Malkion. He gathers his fear, his hunger for control, all the things that fed that dark image, and he lets them go. Not into the warp, not into some god's hands. He just stops clenching them. He lets them fall like stones. The Vader shadow shrieks. The sound is silent in the ear, loud in the soul. Its outline wavers. Armor peels away in flakes of black. Underneath is a smaller shape. A boy from Tatooine, scared and angry, reaching for any hand that will promise him power. Then a light cuts across the warp. A single straight beam of gold, brighter than anything else in that sea. It sweeps past the cruiser, and the warp demons flinch away from it like bugs from fire. The shadow that was Vader is burned at the edges, its form smoking. In Anakin's head, a simple, overwhelming command lands like a stamp. Reach Terra. No voice, just intent. It is not gentle. It is not cruel. It is absolute. The Geller field flares bright. The Vader shadow stumbles, clawing at a barrier it can no longer touch. It points its red blade at Anakin one last time, as if in promise, then shreds into filth and disperses in the tide. The ship steadies, alarms quiet, lights return to normal. The warp outside still roils, but the worst of the pressure fades. Anakin staggers back, his legs tremble. Sweat runs down his face. The script on his chest cools, lines dimming to a dull ache. Kald exhales slowly. "That was your mirror," the Inquisitor says. "The version of you the warp will always try to make. You bled it today. It will return in other forms, but weaker." Severian nods once. "And you heard him," the captain says quietly. "Only a few ever do. He did not give you comfort. He gave you a task." Anakin looks out at the warp. He feels that golden beams echo in his bones. The Emperor did not save him. The Emperor just burned away a distraction and shoved him toward judgment. "Reach Terra," Anakin murmurs. "All right, I am coming." The rest of the voyage is tense but quiet. They pray in the chapel. They walk the medici bays, speaking to wounded crew. Anakin listens to their stories. Worlds no one remembers, battles no one will write songs about. He practices reaching for the Force without letting fear lead. Sometimes he fails and feels the script mark itch. Sometimes he succeeds and feels only a steady, warm pressure, like a hand on his back. Days or weeks, time is strange in the warp, pass. Then, one morning, the ship shudders in a different way. The warp light outside dims. The Geller field powers down in stages. Real stars blossom on the other side of the windows. Sol, the home system of mankind. From the observation deck, Anakin sees it, a small, bright sun, planets turning like prayer beads around it. Armored shells of defense platforms and void stations hang in space like thorns. And there, filling half the view, Terra. No longer a blue-green jewel. It is a banded world of brown, white, and city light. Orbit is crowded with shipyards, fortress stations, weapon platforms, and ring-like structures. The night side glows with the light of 1,000,000,000,000 souls. The cruiser crawls forward under a storm of scanning beams. Massive battleships move alongside, their hulls covered in banners and gun decks. Their guns track the inquisitorial vessel, ready to kill it if it deviates. "They do not trust even me," Kald says, almost amused. "Good. Closer." They pass over night-side hives that make Gavriel IX look small. Over seas turned into toxic soup and covered with refinery platforms. Over continents buried under a single endless city. And at the heart of it all, rising like a mountain forged of gold and bone, the Imperial Palace, a continent-sized fortress of towers, walls, domes, and spires. Cathedrals hang from its sides like barnacles. Stars seem to dim around it. The cruiser docks at a high shielded port. Anakin steps onto a landing platform of polished black stone. Air here is thinner, colder, but rich with incense. The sky is a haze of pollution lit by distant defense lasers. Waiting for them is a squad of warriors in golden armor. They are taller than even Space Marines, but slimmer, more precise. Their armor is covered in detailed engravings. Their helmets are crested. Each carries a guardian spear taller than a man. A custodian steps forward. His face is uncovered. It is stern and ageless, eyes hard as carved amber. Behind him stand a handful of figures in grey robes with veiled faces. Anakin feels nothing from them. Blanks, Cult murmurs. Untouchables. Souls that do not touch the warp at all. They are here to make sure you cannot do anything. Unfortunate. Anakin feels it as they draw closer. The Force pulls back from the veiled figures, like water from oil. His script marks ache, then quiet. His mind feels duller, slower, but clearer too. Temptations are distant. The custodian speaks. Inquisitor Varro Kald, he says. Captain Severian of the Knights of the Dawn. Off-world psyker Anakin Skywalker. You will follow. No welcome, no warmth, only command. They walk. Through halls taller than hive towers, lined with statues of heroes and martyrs. Past walls inlaid with gold and bones. Everywhere, prayers carved into stone. Everywhere, guards in gold and red. Anakin feels smaller with each step. He has stood in Jedi temples and Senate halls. He has walked Coruscant's highest towers. None of it felt like this. This place is not just a palace. It is a wound and a heart at once. They enter the final hall. It is a cavern the size of a city, roof lost in shadow. At the far end stands the golden throne. It is not a simple seat. It is a vast machine of gold, black iron, and ancient cables. It rises in tiers, covered in pipes and statues and reliquaries. At its center, slumped, is a shape in golden armor, chained to the machine, the emperor of mankind. His flesh is shriveled, skin like parchment over bone, but his presence hits Anakin like a storm. Even with the blanks nearby, even with the sheer size of the hall, Anakin feels that mind. It is not a gentle light. It is a blazing sun held in a cage. It is sick and cracked and still trying to shine. His knees buckle. He drops without meaning to. Not from worship, from pressure. His body cannot stay upright under that weight. The custodians kneel too, heads bowed. Cold lowers himself, eyes closed. Severian goes down on one knee, hand over his chest. No one speaks. Words would be small here. The Emperor does not move. His lungs do not rise. His eyes do not open. But his mind reaches. Anakin feels it. Not as a voice in his ears, but as a sweep across his soul. Every memory burns bright, from sandstorms on Tatooine to the cold wind of this hall. Mustafar, the temple massacre that almost was. Padme's smile, Malchion's offer, the mirror's mask. The Emperor sees all of it. Anakin feels no hate from him, no kindness either. Just a deep crushing tiredness and an iron will. Images flood Anakin's mind. The Emperor as a man, walking in armor of gold beside suns in shining warplate. Stars burning, worlds joining a dream of unity. Then betrayal, fire, demons on the palace walls, a sun falling, a blade through the Emperor's chest, pain like nothing else, then darkness, then 10,000 years of sitting on this throne, burning his life to keep a psychic beacon lit, holding back an ocean with bleeding hands. Anakin understands, in a small, incomplete way. This is a man who tried to control too much, too fast, and broke his own dream. Now he stays on the seat of his failure, holding its ruins together. The Emperor's mind presses a question into Anakin, not in words, but clear as any. What do you seek? Anakin could say many things. Power, forgiveness, a way home. He thinks of Gavriel IX, of Holt's tired face, of little candles in shrines, of cultists screaming, of guardsmen frozen by a null engine and given mercy by a bullet. I seek a way to fight like them, he thinks back, not sure how thought turns to speech here. Dirty and hard, but without lying about what it costs. I seek a way not to become another tyrant who says, it is all for your own good, while I crush neck. The Emperor shows him visions in answer. 3 battlefield scenes. In one, Anakin stands alone, far from any banner, slipping between fronts, saving small groups, stopping small massacres. Behind him, larger wars grind on unchanged. He grows tired and bitter as he watches the same patterns repeat. In another, he stands at the head of a fleet, robe replaced with armor marked with both Aquila and strange star. He commands armies. His orders save worlds and doom others. Civil wars flare as some hail him as a new saint, others as a heretic playing with power he should not have. In the third, he stands beside a golden-robed figure, maybe Khald, maybe some future lord of the Imperium. He is leashed by rules, watched by blanks and inquisitors. He cannot act without permission, but when he moves, the full weight of the Imperium moves with him. Some innocents die in the name of the greater war, yet each move shapes whole sectors. Then the visions snap away. The Emperor does not give an answer. He only widens the field, shows the blood price of each style of victory. Anakin feels something else too. The Emperor is not asking just for him. He is testing his ethic against this galaxy's law. Can a man who once tried to control everything accept limits here? Can he carry power without repeating old sins? The Emperor presses one more feeling into him. It is harsh, but solid. Victory, that feeling says, is not everyone living happily ever after. It is humanity still existing tomorrow. It is one more day bought in a universe that wants you dead. Mercy is allowed, but only if it does not doom the species. Do you accept this frame? Anakin's throat is dry. He thinks of his own galaxy, where he tried to save one person and nearly doomed millions. He thinks of this galaxy, where billions die every day to keep the rest alive. I accept that survival has to come first, he answers in his mind. But I will not call cruelty strength. I will not stop feeling the cost. If I become numb, I become you at your worst, or me at mine. For a heartbeat, the pressure lessens. Not much, just enough for him to breathe a little easier. The Emperor's mind brushes the script on Anakin's chest. Golden light traces the black lines. Some roots close, others are reinforced. The scars become less like open wounds, more like channels with gates. Permission and warning fused. The audience ends as it started, without a word. The pressure pulls back. The Emperor slumps as before. Machinery hums. Custodians rise, faces unreadable. Anakin sags, sweating. He feels changed. Not healed. Not damned either. Marked. On the way out, Khald speaks in a low voice. Inquisitorial transcript sealed, he murmurs, almost reciting to himself. Subject, Anakin Skywalker, has been examined by the Master of Mankind. He remains tainted by Chaos script, yet bound by Imperial counterscript. He is dangerous, but usable, under strict terms. In his private thoughts later, Khald puts it simply. Skywalker is now a walking bargain. He can draw on the warp with great force, but each major act will flare the golden script in his scars, tying his will briefly to the Emperor's beacon. That means the dark gods will find it harder to seize him directly, but every overuse drains a little more from that already strained light on Terra. He cannot throw his power around endlessly without hurting the very thing that keeps humanity alive. From now on, every time he reaches deep, he will have to ask, is this worth a spark of the Astronomicon itself? They give Anakin a chamber just off the Great Hall of the Throne. It is small by palace standards. High ceiling, bare stone walls, a single slit window looking out over a storm of lights and towers. He sits on a plain, bench, cloak around his shoulders. His chest still aches where the script burns under his skin. He thinks the audience is over. Then the air thickens. Light, faint and gold, leaks in through the wall like dawn through fog. The noise of the palace fades. His breath sounds loud in his own ears. He is not back on the throne platform. But the Emperor's presence brushes him again. Not as crushing as before, sharper. This time the question is formed in clear shapes. 3 doors appear in his mind. The first is simple metal, dust on its hinges. Behind it, he hears the hiss of lava and the roar of Mustafar's winds. He feels Padme's hand slipping away. Obi-Wan's shout, the smell of burned flesh. Return. Images flash. He steps back through the tear and slams into the lava shore at the moment he left. If he acts differently, maybe he does not choke Padme. Maybe he does not raise his blade on the temple. Or maybe the Force snaps under the strain, time cracks, 2 histories fight, and both galaxies tear. Or he lands slightly wrong, memories dulled, and walks the same road to Vader again. The second door is open to stars. He sees himself in patched armor, cloak torn, lightsaber at his belt. He is on a dozen worlds that are not his own. He arrives in crises and leaves before cheers fade. No banner, no seal, just rumors. A witch with a blue blade who sometimes saves a city, sometimes arrives too late. Free agent. He stops some exterminatus orders. He prevents some cults from rising. He also becomes a target. Some inquisitors call him heretic and hunt him. Some planets start little Skywalker cults. Civil wars spark around his name. The third door is heavy gold, locked with many seals. Behind it, he sees himself in armor tailored to his frame, not as bulky as a Marine's, not as simple as guard kit. An aquila is stamped on one shoulder. A stylized starburst of his old Jedi symbol sits on the other. He walks beside inquisitors and chapter masters. Blanks and priests watch him as much as they watch the enemy. Sanctioned servant. He acts under orders, under law. He is pointed at the worst breaches, the worst demonic wars. He saves whole sectors with one strike and lets smaller fires burn because the call never came. He signs off on hard choices with other people's stamps next to his name. The Emperor pushes more scenes at him. A world where he chose path 1 and snapped time. Both versions of him colliding, Vader and Knight, tearing space until everything falls into a screaming void. A world where he chose path 2 and became a banner of rebellion, letting chaos whisper, "See, even your heroes abandon the throne." A world where he chose path 3 and burned for obeying a lawful exterminatus, hearing billions die and knowing he agreed. The message is simple. There is no clean road. Anakin's hand shakes on his knee. He wants the first door. Part of him still reaches for Padme like a drowning man grabs wood. What? Is one galaxy burned if he can fix the other? Then he sees Gavriel IX. Halt. The faint line that ties his scars to the Astronomicon. He knows that if he rips himself out of this timeline, the chain might yank something worse through. He looks at the second door. He likes the idea of not belonging to anyone else again. No council, no senate, no throne. Just his own sense of right, his own saber. But he has seen what lone knights become in this galaxy. Either saints that others twist into excuses, or warlords that answer to nobody. He looks at the third door. He hates chains. He hates being watched. He has spent his whole life being told what to do by older men with plans. Yet, he also knows what happens when he trusts only himself. Mustafar, the temple, the shadow outside the Geller field. He hears Holt's voice. Remember that our lives were not numbers to you. He hears Kald. Power without chains is how we got half the heresy. He hears Severian. We bleed before we ask others to bleed. The Emperor waits. No push now, no shove, just harsh, patient regard. Anakin swallows. I will not go back, he says inside. My world is broken by my choices already. Maybe this place gives me a chance to balance that ledger instead of tearing everything open twice. The first door fades. He feels a tiny snap as some thread to Mustafar loosens. It does not vanish. Some paths are never fully gone, but it is no longer in front of him. As for roaming alone, he continues, I know myself. I will tell myself I am free. I will tell myself I answer to my own code. And one day, I will convince myself that any act is justified because only I see the full picture. The second door darkens. He remembers the Vader Shadow's offer. He remembers liking it for half a second. I need someone to tell me no, he thinks. Not all the time, not for every choice, but enough. I need walls. He faces the last door. I will serve, he says, but not as a blind blade. If you want me as your weapon, then you must accept that I will still feel every life I cut. If law demands cruelty, I will say so. If order demands lies, I will not call them truth. If that is not allowed, kill me now. The gold door opens. Light pours through. It is not warm. It is not kind. It is steady. The Emperor's mind grips his scars. They burn white hot. He bites back a cry. Golden lines trace over the black script, crossing and pinning. A new shape forms on his chest. Where the lines meet, they form a crude double-headed eagle whose wings are made of thin straight rays like the Jedi Order's old symbol. Under it, the script hangs like broken chains. His lightsaber hilt warms in his hand. He looks down. An aquila is now etched just under the emitter, crossed with a small, simple circle of light. His old emblem reduced to a mark. The metal looks untouched, but he knows it was not there before. His cloak shifts. The plain cloth becomes heavier, lined with a thin strip of gold at the edge. On the back, the fused symbol glows faintly. The Emperor's mandate presses into his mind like a carved law. You will serve under inquisitorial writ, not as one of them, but as their blade. You may act on your own only in clear, immediate crisis, when delay means planetary death. After each major use of deep warp power, you will submit to audit, by blank, by priest, by inquisitor. If 3 agree you are slipping, you will either accept correction or accept death. Mercy clause. You may spare the tainted if they are not sworn to chaos and can be bound under strict watch. You may argue against exterminatus if you have another path that is not built on wishful hope. You will still obey if the throne decides otherwise. You will not turn your blade on those who carry out such orders, unless they fall openly to chaos. Cost. Each time you reach beyond your normal limit, you will draw from me. The Astronomicon will dim a fraction. You will feel that weight. You will know that your victory cost not just you, but every ship that sailed by my light. Do you accept? The pressure asks. Anakin's eyes sting. It is a harsh bargain. It is also honest. I accept, he thinks, in full, but I keep my right to say when it hurts. The weight lifts, not fully, but enough. Outside the chamber, Kald and Severian wait. The door opens. Anakin steps out, cloak around his shoulders, new symbol glowing faintly at his chest. His eyes look older, very tired, very clear. Kald studies the emblem. So, the Inquisitor says softly, sanctioned servant, not a free ghost, not a dead man. Seems my habit of obeying grumpy old men continues, Anakin says. The joke is dry, but not cruel. Severian nods, respect deepening. You have stood before our God and walked away with chains you chose, the captain says. That is rare. Welcome to the war, Skywalker, officially. Anakin lets the cloak fall open so they can see the scars clearly. This is the deal, he says. Each time I go all out, I am not just risking my soul. I am pulling a spark from the Emperor's fire. We will need to be careful when we ask for that. Karl's mouth tightens. Then we will reserve you for when nothing else works, he says. You are not a hammer for every nail. You are the shell we fire when the wall is already cracking. And the mercy part, Anakin asks. I will not walk into another Kappa 7 and execute every kneeling cultist if there is any chance to pull some back. Cord lifts a data slate. Mandate of Terror, he reads. Clause on the Skywalker exception. In matters of battlefield heresy, the sanctioned off-world asset may recommend containment over execution for low-level taint where strategic risk is minimal. Final judgment rests with the presiding Inquisitor and commanding line officer. Holt's recorded voice plays in a little corner of the slate. Give him room to be human, she says, or you might as well have let Malkian have him. Anakin smiles, small and real. I can work with that, he says. Karl's eyes are still wary. If you ever use that mercy as a shield for weakness, the Inquisitor says, I will be the one to write your death order. If you ever let your need to save one doom millions, I will pull the trigger myself. Anakin nods once. Then keep the gun clean, he says, because I am going to argue for people every chance I get. Severian chuckles, a low sound like distant thunder. Good, he says. In the legions we call that tension sanity. If no one is arguing, someone is lying. They leave the palace together. Behind them, the golden throne hums on. The Emperor does not move, but a new thin thread of light now runs from his wound of a mind to a single man walking back toward the void. Years pass. Not many by Terra's count. More than enough for the rest of the galaxy. On a plague world in the Segmentum Obscurus, a Chaos warband tries to turn a whole ocean into a living demon. The Knights of the Dawn and Anakin hit the ritual site like a meteor. He holds back his full power until the last moment, then pulls the warp tide into himself and shoves it into orbit. A small star blooms for an instant in the sky, burning the ritual away. He collapses, shaking, as millions of astropaths across the Imperium feel the Astronomicon flicker. In a shrine city on a pilgrim world, a hive of quiet heresy is uncovered. Karl wants a clean burn. Anakin walks the alleys and speaks to the workers. He feels which ones are too far gone, which ones followed out of hunger and fear. They execute the leaders and send the rest to labor under watch. Later, some of those same workers drag a wounded guardsman to safety instead of stabbing him. On a rogue Forge moon, an Adeptus Mechanicus sect tries to chain a Cetan shard and a demon host into the same machine. Anakin refuses to touch that ritual with anything close to his core. He fights with saber, blaster, and stolen tools, leaving the deep warp quiet. The machine explodes in mundane fire, killing thousands but not tearing reality. Each time he uses deep power, the scars flare. Each time, somewhere on Terra, a scribe notes a microdrop in beacon strength. The High Lords grumble in closed rooms. Karl writes thick reports. Severian adds terse confirmations. Not everyone is pleased. In a dark shrine on the Ark of Endless Sermon's sister ship, another dark apostle reads the burned edges of Malkian's old scripture. The pages are charred and cracked. Words are missing. But the story is clear enough. An off-world angel, chained and yet not, burned their high priest and spat on their gods. The apostle smiles. Good, he says to his gathered word-bearers. The new seraph walks their halls now, half ours, half theirs. We will crack him like a shell. When the Emperor's pet finally breaks, the scream will shake 2 galaxies. Chaos remembers. It waits. Hive Carthaga remembers too. Years after the siege, the walls are patched. The manufactorum still hums. Some slums are gone, buried, rebuilt. The storm scar in the sky is just a faint, ugly stain now. On a plaza below the tower where Anakin first fell, a mural covers an entire hab block side. It shows a tall figure in a torn cloak, blue blade raised. The double-headed eagle and starburst symbol glows on his chest. Around him stand a guardswoman with a scar across her jaw, an inquisitor in a long coat, and a white armored space marine with a rising sun on his shoulder. Behind them, the hive stands with cracks showing but still upright. A little boy stands in front of the mural. He is thin, shoes worn, hands dirty from work in the recycler pits. He stares at the painted blue blade. He has heard stories of the witch who fell from the sky and fought beside the guard, who argued with priests, who left to talk to the emperor himself. His mother calls. "Come on, Jalen," she says. "We'll be late for shift." He runs to her, still looking back. "Do you think he'll come back?" the boy asks. She shrugs, tired but with a small smile. "If the hive is in real trouble," she says. "Maybe, or someone like him. Doesn't matter what his name is, does it? What matters is that somebody stands up." High above, in orbit, an inquisitorial shuttle leaves the system. Inside, Anakin straps in, cloak buckled, saber at his side. Kald sits opposite, slate in hand. Severian stands near the hatch, helmet under his arm. Anakin looks down at the shrinking hive on the display. "They painted the nose wrong," he says quietly. "It's too straight." Kald snorts. "Complain about your likeness later," he says. "Now we have 3 new sectors screaming for help." Anakin nods. He feels the Astronomicon like a heartbeat in the back of his mind. He feels the tug of his scars. He feels his own fear and hope sitting side by side. He is not a Jedi anymore. He is not Vader. He is something new, built out of both failures. As the shuttle burns toward the waiting ship, he rests his hand over the fused symbol on his chest and makes himself a simple promise. "I will fight hard. I will count the cost. I will not lie to myself about either.